We have reached a new low in a decade filled with lows for the New York Jets. The Jets losing to the Patriots on Sunday in New England. It was ugly. We'll get into it. Welcome into the Flight Plan podcast presented by Game Time Watches, the leader in licensed sports watches. We'll get to them in a little bit. This is the Four Downs episode where we will break things down. There's a lot to break down, mostly negative. We'll pick it into like four buckets as we break down this loss to the Patriots. Hopefully, the good news, Zach, the sun came up this morning.
Oh, it did. Yeah, that's
and
true.
It did. It's actually a beautiful day, beautiful fall day in New York City, because I know Jets fans are just feeling it today. It was a brutal loss. It was a loss that all the little things that have been bad all season it was almost like they were emphasized in this game and made even worse. And I know we started a minute late, a couple minutes late. We're not looking for sympathy here, but you were at the vet with your dog, dealing with that stuff. It's just,
oh man, it's a, not to get too graphic here, but I woke up this morning to like a missed call from my fiance and some text that my dog was having some bloody poop problems. So I had to deal with bloody poop 2 days in a row. That's kind of the situation we're in. She actually just texted me. I guess you can give them something shittier to talk about than the Jets. So that's where I'm at. Nice. That's where I'm at mentally right now. It's just, that was just such an embarrassment. Like the Jets find new ways to lose. Like it's such same old Jets, all that stuff. But the way they find new lows week after week is just bonkers. Like that loss to happen that way. Like I had this in my story last night. There was a stat that teams that scored more than 20 points, allowed less than 250 yards or fewer, and that did not turn the ball over were like 750-0 before yesterday. They're 750-1 now. Like the Jets literally find new ways to lose. It's embarrassing. This organization is a complete mess, and I don't envy Jets fans going through this, because this was as much hope as they've had going into this year and last year. And this feels worse than Aaron Rodgers tearing his Achilles, weirdly, because it just feels like there's no way out of this. The future is so bleak. We won't go into that too much. That'll be for a future pod. But there's a lot of fingers to point. I mean, a lot of blame, people to point fingers at. See, I'm struggling with words right now. I haven't eaten much today. But it's just, this season has gone so much worse than even, like, I had it in my head what like a worst case scenario was for this year. And this has exceeded all of those possibilities. And, Aaron Rodgers, you can look at the numbers and say he played better, but I think he has a hand in this loss as much as anyone. Woody Johnson, Joe Douglas, Jeff Ulbrich, Robert Saleh, like everybody is at fault here. And you just wonder how this locker room is going to handle this going forward, how this team's going to handle this, how this fan base is on Thursday night when they have to pay their hard-earned dollars to watch this shitty team again, and how quickly the boos come. And I feel bad for everybody. Like this sucks. Like it sucks for everybody. Like I know I say this all the time, people give us in the media like such a hard time for being too negative and stuff like that. I guarantee you I did not want it to be like this. Like this is not good for anybody. It's only good in the sense that like this maybe will lead to some wholesale changes, you would think, but at the end of the day, I think that the person the fans want to be changed is not going to. So it just feels like, we're in a pit of despair right now, and I don't see a way out for this team, unfortunately.
But it's either a pit of despair,
better and better. So keep listening.
Yes. This is certainly not good for the overall downloads for episode for any podcast out there covering the Jets either. It's either a pit of despair or it's the darkness. And according to Aaron Rodgers after the game, Zach, you have to embrace the darkness. And he's been to the darkness, which we all know all too well.
Yeah, Jeff, that came off of, a quote Jeff Ulbrich had after the game. I don't have it in front of me. But he basically said, like, these are dark times, essentially. And Aaron's like, I'm familiar with the darkness. You have to embrace it. And as I wrote in my story, a lot of people caught on to this. I was quoting The Dark Knight Rises, Bane, where I said Aaron Rodgers merely adopted the dark. Jets fans and this organization were born in it, molded by it. And
Good work by you, by the way.
Thank you. I was proud of that. As soon as everybody started talking about darkness, it was hard to avoid it in my head because it's just all I could think about. But yeah, I mean that's where we're at. Like this is a dark time. These are the dark ages. Like this is as bad as it's been. Unless they go on some 9-game winning streak, like this team is done this season. Like so, there's a lot of questions about what this means. Again, we'll cover the future stuff going forward, but we should get into our 4 downs because
I think the Wednesday episode is a deep dive into the future for sure. Okay, 4 downs. First down, 4 timeouts to avoid delay of game penalties. Yet on a 2-point conversion that could have been the difference in this football game, they still get a delay of game penalty. Like they needed to use a 5th timeout to avoid that one. All 3 first half timeouts used in the first quarter to avoid delay of game penalties. Not only was Aaron Rodgers not able to get up to the line and go through his 3 different options of cadence to throw the defense off balance, he couldn't get the play off.
It was unlike anything I've seen. Like this has been kind of brewing all season because they've had these issues all year. It just was at its worst in this game. And that kind of is where I was at with like where I was saying a lot of this falls on Aaron Rodgers. Like, look, he can point the finger elsewhere with those issues. Like, there was one play where Mike Williams he did not know where to be. Like you could see Devontae Adams and Garrett Wilson pointing to where he needed to be. He did not practice with this team all of training camp, and I think it's coming back to bite them. But so they had to call a timeout there. There's been so many times where Aaron is bringing it right up to the edge of the play clock, doing his thing, analyzing the defense, making changes at the line, doing his hand signals, doing his cadence, and then they either run out of time or they have to call timeout or they just get the snap off. And ultimately, I think that, and by the way, I should backtrack. Like I before when Hackett was calling the plays, it seemed like some of the issues were the plays not getting in on time. From what I understand, that has not been the issue. The plays are not getting in too slow. They are getting in, and Aaron is either changing them or he's taking too long to get everybody set up. And at the end of the day, Aaron has had a refusal to adjust. It clearly, his system does not work with this team, with new players, with all these players that have never done it before. There's a lot of veterans on this team, and if it's not working with them, it's certainly not going to work with the younger ones. So I think Aaron's unwillingness to change it up and just kind of run what, the offense is, as opposed to trying to change everything and, taking control of it. And he's not even making great decisions a lot of time. There's Devontae Adams, and we'll get into like the receiver stuff. He didn't get the ball very much, but he was open. Like there was times where he was open and Aaron didn't see him again in the flat. Like he's throwing him down the field when there's guys open in the flat. Like Aaron's not seeing the field well. He's not making good decisions. And I know the stats look better. He had 2 touchdowns. One of the touchdown drives, like I don't even know if they've deserved to score on that drive because I believe they used 2 of their timeouts on that drive. There was 2 defensive pass interferences called. There was a muffed snap from Joe Tippmann. There was a drop. Like it was just an absolute disaster of a drive, but the Patriots kept giving it back to the Jets and they scored. But Aaron, he has his fingerprints all over the issues they're having on offense right now. And unless he is willing to like actually look in the mirror and say, okay, the way I like to operate is not working. I cannot do the things that I used to be able to do. Devon Godchaux I think that's how you say his name, on the Patriots even had like this quote that kind of went not viral, but just basically like that's not really Aaron Rodgers I remember, essentially was the gist of it. Like he can't move anymore. And it's the reality. Like he's banged up. The offensive line, I think in terms of pass blocking, they were mostly okay. I mean, there were some mistakes they made in terms of like assignments and stuff, but you didn't really I didn't get the sense he was getting pressured a lot in that game. Oh, sorry, big sneeze. I'm allergic to all this disaster, but yeah. So I just think Aaron really likes to talk about accountability, and sometimes he'll throw some lines there like, "I need to be better. I threw this bad. Like this happened," but you didn't hear that last night or yesterday, and I think he needs to really, unless he wants to lose the locker room because he's the leader of this team, like he needs to like really reflect on what's not working, because it's not just everybody in this team keeps saying it's execution, which is true, and we shoot ourselves in the foot. Yeah, well, good teams don't do that. So somebody needs to we don't point fingers. Like maybe you should start pointing. Maybe people should start pointing the fingers at the people that are doing the wrong things. Like I don't know.
All right, second down, Jacoby Brissett, not Drake May, who actually looked like a pretty good future quarterback in the first quarter here in this game and in last start. But that's neither here nor there. Jacoby Brissett takes the Patriots 70 yards on 12 plays in the final minutes after Aaron. I mean, we just were pretty rough on Aaron Rodgers. He did drive the team down the field for a go-ahead touchdown in the final minutes. You said it wasn't the most pretty drive, but he did do it. And I think I texted you at one point that like I kind of like in my head was envisioning, because they needed to get a touchdown instead of a field goal because of all the previous mistakes, that he was going to force an interception. That did not happen. Made some good throws. They get the touchdown. They take the lead. And I'm sure everybody listening to this podcast out there, well, maybe not. People are negative because of what this team has done in the past. But to me, it felt like, all right, well, this wasn't what we wanted to see from this team, but they got a win in New England. That's what they needed. Maybe it's something they can build upon. But somehow, again, Jacoby Brissett goes 70 yards on 12 plays against this defense. And maybe you get into the specifics, but like the one that blows my, there was third and longs throughout. I think it was three third and longs they completed. The one that blows my mind though is the long throw down inside the 10, burning Sauce badly.
Yep. Keyshawn Boutte, I think is how you pronounce it. They kept pronouncing it booty in the PA at the game, but which is hard not to laugh.
It's his home, the home PA. Yeah,
I know. Yeah, that was bad. And Sauce kind of alluded to it. Jalen Mills not doing what he thought he was going to do, the safety in that moment, but Sauce did not have a good game. Like, I think the criticism has gone like to the extreme where people are trying to say he's not good. Like, he is a good cornerback, like that's without question, but his tackling was an absolute like just disaster in this game. It's been a problem all season. He's gotten burned way more than he used to. Getting burned by that guy in that moment just was embarrassing. And honestly, I know they gave up less than 250 yards. That was part of the stat I mentioned earlier, but they probably should have given up a lot more because the Patriots receivers, they were on the books for 4 drops. It felt like they dropped more than that. Like, they were awful. The Patriots are a bad football team, and I didn't walk out of that game thinking any less than that.
No.
But yeah, like that drive, like, you know, for 4 weeks, Aaron got the ball late in the game, and the Jets didn't deliver. This time, they went down the field, they scored, didn't get the 2-point conversion, but they scored that touchdown on the Braylon Allen run. And then the defense fell apart again, and they are really banged up. CJ Mosley like hurt his neck in like some scary thing before the game. Like, he felt it like feel weird, and he was kind of worried about it, so he didn't play at all. I mean, Hassan Reddick didn't make any impact at all. I saw somebody saying that, Bill Belichick actually on the Pat McAfee show saying that he saw him running by the quarterback over and over again, like just sailing past him. So, you know, they have some more holes on the defense than I expected, but yeah, that was really bad effort by the defense and by Sauce. I mean, even just watching the replay, he just looks like lost out there on that play specifically. And maybe it's because he thought Jalen Mills was going to be helping him out or whatever it was, but you know, to get to third down, I think like you said, I think it was 3 times. It was definitely at least 2, or it was 3rd and 10. And one of them, Jacoby Brissett, runs for a first down, like another easy scramble, which is something that's killed them in these key moments. And it's not like
which
Brissett's
Drake May did the entire first quarter, right? He was running rampant.
And you wonder, I don't know if it would have been as close if Drake May didn't get hurt, because he looked really good to me. He was making some great throws that the Patriots receivers were dropping or missing. And then you have Jacoby Brissett, who's not the most mobile quarterback at this stage of his career, but he had an easy 11-yard gain or 12-yard gain, whatever it was, to set them up. And then they get down there, and Ramondre Stevenson, I wasn't 100% sure he got in the end zone, but it was too hard to like see on the review, like to overturn it. So you get him that touchdown, and then the Jets aren't really able to go up the field. So, you know, the defense, they're not as good as they were the last 2 years. I still think they are good, but they're not as good as they were. So they're like, the margin for error is much, much smaller. They don't really get the pass rush anymore. Quentin Williams had a great game, and he deserves a shout out for that. I think Jalen Mills has been a revelation at safety, but you know, this is a group that just hasn't really stepped up in like these key moments. And so when you have the offense and the defense not stepping up, it's pretty impossible to win, even against the second or worst team in the NFL, in my opinion, in terms of like the talent they have on their roster at the very least.
But when you look at records, right, they're right in the thick of it. As far
they have the same record as the Jets. So
pick.
Yeah.
Carolina takes the lead again as far as that number 1 overall pick, which they're just going to get every year, apparently. Before we move on to third down, let's take a minute to talk about our new presenting sponsor, Game Time Watches. We're psyched to be working with the Game Time crew. They've been awesome to work with. You can save 25% at GameTimeWatch.com using the promo code NYJ Pod 25. Couple of products to check out. One of them I have in my hands now, Zach. We got product. Check this out. Beautiful box, right? Beautiful keepsake box.
Sick.
New York Jets logo on there. I know this logo doesn't make people feel great at the moment, but we're going to get over that. We're going to get back to this Jets team eventually. I'll open it up a little bit. It's like a box breaking session.
Nice.
Beautiful watch. This watch has weight. You can tell how well it's made. Gotham City on the interior, green. Beautiful watch. So that is the Gotham City football stainless steel. Comes in a case. The band and case back are stainless steel, custom color texture dial, scratch resistant mineral crystal lens, iota movement, shock resistant, water resistant, officially licensed. Logo comes in that luxury box that you saw. Limited edition, only 500 of those made. And then they also have a Jets watch and wallet set. That's a great gift package. Right now, it's not too soon to think about the holidays. This season will be just about over. People can look to the future as Jets fans, and what better thing to get a great watch and wallet set. So check that out as well. Again, it's GameTimeWatch.com, Game Time Watches. They also have other sports. Yankees in the World Series right now. They have Yankees watches. So check them out. And if you get on there, you can save big time using the promo code NYJPod25. Save 25% on your Game Time watch. All right, third down. Greg Zuerlein. This is game. I think now we can officially. I mean, we've said it. We're never going to say like you can blame the game specifically on one player, but I think there are 3 losses in this Jets season filled with losses that you can directly connect to the way Greg Zuerlein has kicked the football. None of them were his fault entirely, but man, a good field goal or an extra point would have gone a long way in a few losses this season. And no bigger. Well, I guess bigger is the one where he just absolutely missed the kick that would have won the game. Yeah. But next to that, this was basically the same thing. If he kicks a couple field goals here, the game's not as close as it was late.
Yeah, it's crazy because obviously fans have completely turned on him, and it's hard to blame them, especially when a kicker is just missing. He's made like 9 of 15 for the season or something like that. Like, it's really, really bad.
We talked about him being the MVP of this.
That's what I was gonna say. Like he was the source of their offense for 2 seasons, especially last year. But for 2 seasons, he was the source of their offense. Him and Morstead. Special teams has been a kind of a disaster overall, I would say. But Zuerlein, they kept going too long. They were hoping he would refine what he had. But usually when a kicker loses it, he loses it. And he's lost it in the past, and then he got it back when he came to the Jets. But they waited too long to get rid of him. And I get it. They were, they're loyal to a guy who was carrying them for 2 years. But, I asked Jeff Ulbrich after the game, and maybe I could have phrased it better. But I asked him, like, do you regret holding on to him? Obviously, he was going to say, no, I don't. Like, he's not going to say, yes, I regret holding on to this player. He's not that kind of coach. But it was ultimately the wrong decision. And so now he spoke a little bit before our pod about how they're going to have a tryout at the stadium tomorrow for, I don't know if it's like an open to the public type tryout, but it would be kind of funny if it was like an Invincible type thing where Vince Papale got to the Eagles. But yeah, they're having a tryout for kickers tomorrow. I imagine Greg Zuerlein has kicked his last ball for the New York Jets. It's a little too late for it to matter at this point, but you hope you get a kicker in there. It's the hardest part about this, and you can't blame them for doing this, but Austin Siebert was on this team all offseason, and they kept him through training camp, and they cut him to cut down the rosters. He went to the Commanders, and he's been one of the best kickers in the NFL. I think he's converting 90% of his kicks. There's a game where he had like 6 field goals, and they won. Commanders are really good, and they have a good kicker, and he was on the Jets, so it's hard to stomach that when you see what's happening with Greg. And look, like you said, I don't think it's fair to say the Broncos game, you could say they would have won that game if he kicked that field goal, but there are other, this last game, there were other factors that led to the loss beyond, and even the extra point that he missed, that one was more on Morstead because he turned the ball was like laces at his feet. And so
there was time to spin it. It wasn't like he was scrambling.
Yeah,
it was laces in. There was time to spin the football.
Yeah, it was, so that I don't put on him as much. It's just that if that was the only time he had done it, but he had missed all these other field goals too. And it's not like they've been close either. It's gone wide left. And this is a guy who was nailing every field goal. He was Greg the leg, and from 50 yards plus, he was money. He had like 57-yarder last year, I believe. But when you're done, you're done. So you got to move on from him. And again, we're going to get into the pod later in the week. It wouldn't be my surprise, not saying they're going to cut guys, but if they start selling off some pieces, if this is the path this team is going down, it's hard to justify keeping some guys that they're probably going to lose in the offseason anyway. So I'm very curious to see what Jeff Ulbrich does. The accountability thing, like if guys aren't doing their job, then they should be getting benched right now, frankly. And I'm not going to run through who I think should at this very moment, but like you need to make some changes, and you start with the kicker and you work outward from there.
They get kind of a jump because they play Thursday night, and then the trade deadline is Tuesday, right? Yeah, it's election day.
Yep.
So while some teams may be holding on and waiting till Sunday to see how the game plays out, and then
they'll have more time. Yeah,
they'll have more time. Although I don't know what Thursday could possibly change, even if they win and look great.
I mean, I guess if the idea is if you beat a really good Texans team, then you could pretend like the season's still alive. But I don't see that. I don't see that a win happening, and I don't see their season being alive happening. So.
Yeah. I had one more thought on Greg Zuerlein, but now I can't remember. All right, 4th down. We're going to end on a positive note here, Zach, because that was a lot of negativity, and we're not supposed
We've tried
to
be positive all year, We've tried to be
positive.
The
one year we're like, hey, we are going to be a positive Jets podcast. They're doing this to us.
Come on,
so
guys.
We can't be blamed. But 4th down, Garrett Wilson looked good. Made some great plays. Not the targets weren't quite what they had been at, right? 8 targets, I think. A few weeks ago it was 22 targets.
Yeah.
But it did seem like while Davante Adams hasn't had a big game for this team, just watching these games, it seems like Davante Adams' impact on Garrett Wilson has been what we had hoped, which is Garrett not getting Christian Gonzalez spent a lot of time covering Davante Adams. The first time around, he was pinned on Garrett the entire game, and it showed yesterday with 5 catches over 100 yards.
Yeah, and a few of them were like really, really impressive catches. Some good throws, but like Garrett looked like Garrett. And you're seeing we talked about a little before the pod. I do think Davante's presence has helped Garrett get some more one-on-ones, maybe not always go against the shutdown corner. Like I mentioned, Davante was open at times. He just didn't get the ball much. That trade very clearly was a bust ultimately because he hasn't really contributed much to winning other than his speech that, belongs in the Hall of Fame alongside Zach Wilson's 4th quarter against the Steelers because everybody talked about it like it was this great speech that was going to change their season. And then we got this stinker. But anyway, we said we wouldn't be negative on this point. Sorry, it's hard. But yeah, Garrett looked really, really good. He was not available in the locker room after the game. He got out of there pretty quick, so we didn't really get to talk to him. But, I do wonder how he's feeling about this situation with the Jets because he was pretty, over the years, he's been very frustrated with how things were. Even as he was producing, he just wants to win, and they're not winning. And, again, this goes all into the future and the reckoning that's coming. Like, will they give extensions to this 2022 class and all that stuff? But Garrett was one of the bright spots in this game. Quinton Williams was another one. I think Breece Hall, he did make some mistakes. He had some drops, had some bad plays in protection. But when he was running the ball, he was really good, and they kept getting away from him, and I don't know why. Braylon Allen was not running the ball well, and they kept, Breece and Braylon had around the same amount of carries, but Breece was averaging 6 yards a carry. He should have been getting the ball more. They should have kept hitting the ground. He should have got the ball more in the passing game. But Breece was good. Garrett was good. Sauce was not. And Jalen Mills was good. I think Jamie Sherwood has showed some flashes. But, yeah, Garrett, he's a star. I think he's a star at his best. At his worst, it can get pretty bad, as you've seen. But at his best, he is very, very good.
Yeah, he was good. He wasn't quite good enough on this day. And well, they did score the touchdown on the one play where I wanted him to get in. They did get the touchdown anyway. But to see him play well and starting to connect, and then it's always something else that kind of pops up to down this team. And it was a lot of things on Sunday. All right, before we say goodbye, I will say coming up on Wednesday, I think that is the direction we should take this thing, Zach, is all right, let's look big picture. Where's this team headed? GM, new head coach, what are the options as we look forward? And then maybe they win Thursday and we can have a little more hope for a little bit. But at least for Wednesday, I think we have to talk worst case scenario.
Yeah, worst case scenario, what their options are in terms of who gets traded away. There's just so many. It's very bleak I went on Scoop City, Diana Rossini and Chase Daniels podcast a little before this, and they were kind of asking, and Chase Daniels was just kind of like laying it out as he was asking the question. He was like, "Oh my God, there's like, it's pretty bleak, like because you have all the. I'm not going to get into it now. I think everybody knows, but you have a lot of stuff you're going to have to address this offseason. Completely new staff, front office, quarterback probably, and a lot of roster spots. So it's tough. You know, we're back. It seems to be early and earlier where we're talking about the future. I mean, the Jets were 4-4 after 8 games last year with Zach Wilson. They're 2-6 with Aaron Rodgers playing every game. Like, it just, I'm still kind of like yesterday before the game, I literally was talking to some reporters about like, I don't think they're going to lose this game, but like you could see it. Like you could see this Jets team, like all bets are off. Like I could see them losing this game. And then they go and do it. And I'm sitting there like, I can't believe that just happened. Like, it's just like, you're like, okay, in the back of my head, like, of course it could happen. Then it happens. You're like, wait, did that really just happen? Like, I cannot believe it. Taylor Delgado just asked if we should schedule Dane Brugler for the pod. We might have to at some point. We might be talking quarterbacks pretty soon. So we might need to talk about some quarterback. You're on mute, by the way. But yeah, we might need to talk some quarterback prospects. I don't hear you, Tim.
This isn't a good year for that sort of talk as far as quarterbacks go by most accounts. Now, you never know. I mean, last time the Jets had a top pick, you know, that was supposed to be a great quarterback class. And even Trevor Lawrence is not what everybody thought he would be. Yep. You know what I mean? So you never know. And then this year, like, it looks like these top 3
are stellar.
Jaden Daniels looks like a star. Drake May in limited action looks very good. I don't know about Caleb Williams, and he was supposed to be the slam dunk.
It's funny. So, I was talking to another reporter last night. Like, you watch Jaden Daniels, that Hail Mary, of course, but even just in general, the way he plays, and you're like, why don't the Jets ever get these NFL quarterbacks? Like, they just never fall in their lap. They always wind up with, you know, I mean, Sam Darnold looks better after the fact, but like, you hope that they land somebody, and just find some hope again, because it's pretty bleak right now, as I said.
All right. We'll be back on Wednesday streaming. It'll be in your feed Thursday morning, getting ready for the Texans. But I think we're just not going to talk too much about that game. We'll talk about this team and where it is big picture. And yeah, thanks for tuning in, everybody. We really do appreciate it in these dark times that you still take some time to spend some time with us and listen to talk about this team. It's all going to be worth it someday. We'll talk to everybody soon. Bye.